the case that we've got in Crane, we got a call on I think it was a Wednesday afternoon about 2 o'clock or so, and my office manager answered the phone, and it was the Justice of the Peace in Crane County. And she said, when the county signed on, we sent, just to preface this, when the county signed on, we sent a letter to them that said, here's what we'd like for you to do if you get a capital case. And it talked about contacting us and getting us appointed right away. And so this Justice of the Peace in Crane County had seen this letter because we'd asked the county judge to distribute it to all the people that might accidentally have to arraign or magistrate one of our clients. And she had gotten that letter in, and she knew to call, and she picked it up, and she goes, we've got a guy down here that looks like he's going to be charged with capital murder, but he hasn't been charged yet. But I just want to make sure that we do everything right. And so Elaine said, well, here's what you do. And so that was the end of the conversation. And we were talking as a unit in the office that day and said, well, what is our obligation at this point? And I said, let's change our protocol letter up just a little bit. We'll send it off to everybody, but it won't say we've been appointed because we hadn't been, but it'll say we've been contacted about the possibility of being appointed on this case, and please don't talk to him. So we sent that letter off, faxed it, within 10 minutes after a phone call, and about 10 minutes later, phone rang, and it was that Justice of the Peace. And I could hear her chewing my office manager out. And Elaine said, do you want to talk to her? And I said, no, I don't. I said, but it's what I'm getting paid the big bucks for, so I will talk to her. And so I got on the phone, and she started chewing on me. What are you doing telling them not to, that you're on this case? I haven't appointed you. And I said, Judge, I didn't tell him I was on the case. I said, I don't know who told you we did, but we said that you have contacted us about possibly be appointed on a capital case. And she goes, well, that's right. And I said, well, do you mind telling me who said that we misrepresented ourselves? And she said, well, the Texas Ranger that's over at the jail talking to him right now got this letter, and he's really unhappy. And I said, well, I suppose that he probably is. And so that kind of got started that way. And as we do, one of our protocols is one of the attorneys in the office, I said, Dennis, can you drive to Crane tonight and see our client or see our potential client? And he said, sure. And so he got in the car and he got to the jail about 7:30 at night and went up to the deputy and he said, can I get in to see Mr. Thurby? And the deputy said, do you represent him? And Dennis said, well, not yet, but we may, and so I'd like to visit with him if I could. And he said, well, I'm not going to let you. And so we said, okay, and I was at home, and Dennis got on the cell phone and called me and said, what do you want me to do? And I said, well, why don't you just handwrite out a statement and say I was here at the jail, and he acknowledges I was here, and he wouldn't let me talk to the client. He said, okay, I'll try that. So he wrote one out, and he went in, and about 10 minutes later, he called me back, and he goes, well, he wouldn't sign it the way it was written. And I said, well, how did you have to change it? And he said, well, he added in there, I wouldn't let him talk to him because the district attorney told me not to. So we got that, and obviously we may have some suppression issues at some point on certain things, but that's one of the things we do. And the other thing I was going to say that's not reflected in this is the expense that the county will incur for gasoline and lodging and meals and that sort of thing, because that's included in our budget. As we all know, gas prices have risen, and we're on the road all the time. For outlying counties, that's a big savings, because if they appoint, if I'm in Lubbock and they appoint me as a private attorney and I've got to drive back and forth a number of times to visit a client in Littlefield or wherever, Dumas or wherever it is, they're paying my gas, not only the time but the gas. They're paying my meals. We have a client who has, on a pending case now, who has family in Mississippi. Thank goodness we don't have anybody overseas yet where we have to send at least a mitigator and an investigator to go investigate that, because we're going to have to do that. But we do have a client that's from Mississippi, and I had a mitigator that was out there for a week, and then I went out and spent 3 days there to take a deposition, to do some discovery out in Mississippi. County's not paying for that. That's included in our budget. Now, the problem I'm going to have personnel-wise in the office is I keep 3 mitigators there, and the first case we get in where there's a connection to South Padre, they're fighting to see who gets to go. But that's what we've got right now, so there's some significant savings there as well. Yes, sir.
Do Do you have any concerns that prosecutors will start seeking the death penalty more often, since counties essentially don't have to pick up the full tab on these cases now? And, do you have anything in place where your, murder insurance rates are going to go up if they start filing more capital cases?
No, and his question was, are we worried, are we concerned that because the county or the prosecutor to some extent is getting a free ride on those costs, will they file more cases or will they seek the death penalty in more capital cases? Honestly, when this idea was fomented and it was going around, a survey was sent out to all the capital qualified attorneys in the 7th and 9th about what their thoughts were and if they had an objection to the program. And my only concern at that point was exactly what you said. I was concerned that prosecutors would start doing that. But we do have a couple of built-in safeguards. Number one is expert witness fees. In capital cases, as you know, the state gets a forensic pathologist. Usually the defense gets one. The state gets a blood spatter expert. The defense gets one. Those costs for experts are still borne by the county. The nice thing about that for the counties is the district judge that's in charge of that case still controls to a certain extent the purse strings. He has to provide certain things, but he can act as a gatekeeper on those things and say you either need it or you don't. And if you say you need it, you better justify why you need it. So those costs can still be significant. And the other thing is probably most of you are aware, is that different appellate counsel is required in these types of cases because of conflict issues and ineffective issues and that sort of thing. And so what happens is if the state successfully gets a death penalty, it's going to be appealed and those costs aren't covered. And the costs of an appeal are fairly substantial. So one of the things that we have found so far really is while prosecutors may be a little bit more trigger happy to charge somebody with a capital offense and to initially say, I'm going to seek the death penalty, what happens is because we're working hard and diligently, I think effectively, efficiently, and ethically on these cases, is that they sit back and say, is this really a fight that I want to get into over this death penalty? Is this guy really the worst of the worst and deserves a death penalty? Or maybe this is one that I'll plea bargain out. And so we're seeing some of that too. Yes, sir.
You have any workload standards or hourly standards?
No, he asked if we have workload or caseload standards. One of the tasks that I've been assigned in my job description is to try to work with other agencies and offices to try to develop some standards. There are no standards at this time nationwide for capital cases. We've got standards through NLADA and some other things on felonies, but I think excluded from those are capital cases and what are referred to as complex cases. So now that we're fully staffed, we're starting our second year, that's something that we will start working on. The anticipated caseload for our office was just a figure that was just kind of pulled out as 25 at a time. When I interviewed for this job, I thought that might be a little bit high. I think I indicated during the interview process 22, 23 might be a little bit more realistic. And actually, when we started, we were budgeted for 2 mitigators and 2 investigators. When we were going through the hiring process, we'd hired our first set of hires. It was time to hire a second mitigator. It was time to hire a second mitigator and a second investigator. I went to the oversight board, my oversight board, and said, I want to change that if I can, because we need a third mitigator rather than a second investigator. And they didn't have any problem at all doing that. We got a third mitigator. And actually on caseload standards, I'm more concerned about the standards for our mitigators, how they're going to get bogged down in this, rather than the attorneys themselves. I think in talking to them and in working with them and talking with Tony and everybody else in the office and other mitigators, those are the folks that have the face-to-face and have the time in it. And they're the ones that are going to, if we get 25 cases, my opinion at this time is 8 each is way too many for a mitigator because of all the time. And I have one, actually this turned out just right because one of the TV stations came to our office Monday and did an interview, kind of an end of the year, how you guys coming along type thing, and I'll end it with that little clip if we can get it up.